Okay, let's kick off this explainer with a quote that honestly sounds like it was written yesterday, even though it's ancient philosophy. Without leaving home, one can know the world. Without peering through the window, one can see the way of heaven. That's Lao Tzu. Now, for centuries, people just chalked those words up to pure mysticism. But as we're going to see, it might actually be the most spot-on description of the internet age ever written. The scholar stays home. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating essay that uses Lao Tzu's ancient paradoxes to basically decode the way we live right now. It contrasts that exhausting, constant outward hustle of our modern society with the inward, quiet journey of the ancient sage. It's an incredible look at what society tells us we should do versus the hidden, almost unbelievable power of staying exactly where we are. Because think about it, we are literally living Lao Tzu's paradox right now, aren't we? I mean, without traveling anywhere. We binge watch films, we stream live concerts, we chat with friends across the globe, we complete transactions, trade stocks in our pajamas, we access entire libraries of books instantly and fire off messages without ever stepping foot outside our front doors or going anywhere near a post office. We can practically gain the whole world without ever leaving our bedrooms. It's pretty fascinating, and let's be real, a little eerie just how right he was. But we're kind of caught in a direct conflict here. On one hand, popular wisdom constantly tells us to read 10,000 books, travel 10,000 miles, to relentlessly rush outward, get experience, go everywhere, see everything. But then we have Lao Tzu warning us, the farther one travels, the less one understands. The essay we're unpacking argues that if our thoughts are constantly rushing outward, we just exhaust ourselves chasing the external world. We end up gaining nothing but superficial experiences that literally drain our bodies and minds. So instead of dealing with that physical exhaustion, we actually need to point inward. Take historical figures like Bodhidharma, for example, who famously faced a wall in meditation for 9 years. 9 years! Because in the depths of stillness, the mind can traverse the tunnels of time and space, soaring freely to envision limitless futures. And that kind of profound enjoyment, well, it's an experience totally lost on those of us constantly caught up in the endless daily hustle. Okay, let's move on to Pillar 1, knowing without acting. Now, you might be wondering, how is it actually possible to know something without actively going out and experiencing it firsthand? Well, to understand this, we have to look at how we process information. For the ordinary person, a lack of hearsay or, say, internet access triggers this massive fear of becoming a frog at the bottom of a well, completely isolated and ignorant of the outside world. But the enlightened sage? They don't need to physically experience every single thing to understand it. They simply grasp one fundamental concept and use that to logically infer all the others. Think about universal constants for a second. An apple ripens and falls. Water naturally flows downhill. The seasons inevitably change. The sage knows these sequential truths of nature without having to personally test or verify every single one of them, right? By understanding the core nature of reality, they infer the rest without needing to endlessly act or experiment. Basically, they've found the underlying pattern to the whole shebang. Which brings us to Pillar 2, seeing without looking. Now, this one completely challenges our deep-seated belief that seeing is believing. As one philosopher quoted in our source brilliantly noted, I see more clearly when I close my eyes. And why is that? Because what our physical eyes see can so often lead to confusion and deception. Initial appearances almost never reveal the true nature of something. It kind of reminds me of the old proverb that distance tests a horse's strength and time reveals a person's heart. Distance and time are the true tests of reality, for sure, not just a quick, deceiving glance with our physical eyes. This brings us directly to the concepts of form versus emptiness. Form is what appears to the eye. It's full of countless distracting variations. Emptiness, on the other hand, is the unseen essence that never changes. The text beautifully points out that form is emptiness and emptiness is form. Think about a human life from birth to death. We walk the same paths and eat the same food as those before us. Despite all those crazy surface-level variations in our lives, the underlying essence remains exactly the same. The essay gives a brilliant visual for this. Whether calm or tempestuous, it is still water. Just as nothing escapes the Tathagata Buddha's vast palm, the sage understands the true nature of water without needing to see every single wave or ride out every single storm. They don't need to look at every tiny variation to understand the unchanging essence beneath it all. They see clearly without looking. All right, Pillar 3. And this is perhaps the absolute most confusing of Laozi's teachings, accomplishing without doing. I mean, it leaves us scratching our heads, right? How can one accomplish anything without action? Can we really expect an autumn harvest without spring sowing? Or, let's make it more relatable, can you get a university degree without studying or acquire wealth without working? On the surface, it seems to defy all logic and practical reality. But the essay reveals a much deeper truth at play here. When you intentionally plant flowers, they may not bloom. When you accidentally plant willows, they grow into shade. The universe just has a natural balance. You might lose in the east, but gain in the west. The text suggests that unseen forces actually often reward non-action over blind, grasping ambition. A virtuous person who doesn't anxiously force things naturally receives blessings, while the schemer who is frantically trying to avoid misfortune, well, they often walk right into it. And this profoundly illustrates the practical takeaway. Rather than standing by the river envying the fish, it is wiser to go home and weave a net for oneself. Instead of restless outward pursuit, instead of constantly trying to do more to force a result, it is far wiser to find tranquility. We need to allow our hearts to illuminate the true nature of things and let our vision extend far by cultivating our inner selves rather than blindly acting outward. Zooming out to the cosmic scale here, the essay invokes the Buddha's ultimate teaching to tie all of this together. All conditioned phenomena, literally everything we strive for and physically act upon in the world, are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, and lightning. They are incredibly fleeting. And this reinforces Laozi's paradoxes perfectly, doesn't it? The external actions and phenomena we get so completely worked up about are merely outward illusions. So it seems the modern scholar has a very good reason to stay home, perfectly connected to the world, yet sitting in stillness. Which brings us to this. If the physical world is just an outward illusion, what will you discover by sitting in stillness today? Are you ready to stop running outward, exhausting yourself, and finally start looking inward? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope it gives you a moment of tranquility in your busy day.